Hello, my friends, it's Danny, and I'm super excited to be sitting here having a nice casual conversation with you all today. I am going to be answering some of the questions that you all submitted via the community page and Instagram. I want to thank everybody who was a part of that conversation. You guys gave so many great questions, so I'm just going to pull a handful of questions to get started with today. So the first question that I saw come up a few times was about intermittent fasting. Susan Burton asked, she said, intermittent fasting seems to be really trending right now, especially for middle-aged or aging women. Anywhere from 12 to 48 hours, every day, every other day, Monday through Friday, etc. All sorts of health benefits, but to my point, I feel like if I don't subscribe to it, then I'm doomed to look older and get fatter every year with aging. Is this just me? So Susan and everybody else who is asking about intermittent fasting, it definitely is trending right now. There's a lot of chat about intermittent fasting. And is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? It's going to depend on the person. So simply put, intermittent fasting is basically taking a stretch of time in a 24-hour period, sometimes in a 48-hour period, where we're not eating any food at all. Some people say start with 10 hours, 12 hours, 14 hours, 16 hours. Sometimes you see people say a full 24-hour fast. But again, no matter how long the fast is, the idea is that you're not eating in that period of time. Now, a lot of people are trying intermittent fasting as a weight loss tool, right? And can it help with weight loss? It certainly can, but that's mostly because you're going to restrict the amount of calories you take in when you're only eating within a 6 to 8 hour window throughout the day. It's not necessarily because of the actual fast itself. It's that your eating less when all is said and done. Now, can fasting be good for the body? A lot of people say, absolutely it can. From a weight loss perspective, something that does happen is that it reduces insulin levels in the blood, and insulin is a fat storage hormone. So when you get those insulin levels very low, it helps to train the body to get really good at utilizing its own fat stores. So is that a good thing? Yes. But what you have to be careful of with intermittent fasting in any type of dietary strategy or approach is that the system is never going to be smarter than your body. So what I mean by that is if you attempt intermittent fasting, but you feel hungry while you're fasting, you're actually going to do more harm than good because the body is going to translate that into low-level stress, right? Constant chronic hunger is going to feel like low-level stress to the body, and that is going to produce more cortisol in your body, and it's going to signal the body to hold on to fat, not to release fat. So if intermittent fasting is something that is calling your name or you feel like you want to play with and flirt with a little bit, do so, but don't do it in spite of yourself. Allow your body to guide you as you play with the intermittent fasting. Something to keep in mind is when you eat your last meal of the day to whenever you wake up and eat breakfast, that's a fast. Whether it's a 6-hour fast or an 8-hour fast or a 10-hour fast, you are fasting, right? So perhaps you start by calculating where you're at right now. Maybe if you sleep and it's 8 hours before your last meal until your breakfast, then the next day you say, hey, I'm gonna just try to go to 9 hours. And then maybe you flirt with 10 hours, right? But the idea is that the process of fasting is actually feeling good to you. You should feel clear, you should feel energetic, you should feel like you can go about your day. You should not be feeling fatigued, worn out, hungry, etc., because that again is going to be read by the body as low-level stress. So the bottom line here is, do I think intermittent fasting can be a positive for yourself and your body? Yes, but like everything, if it works for you. So if it's calling your name and you want to give it a try, start small and work your way up. And again, see, is it something that you are enjoying? Is it something that you can sustain? Is it something that's making you feel good? Because that's the whole point of it and any eating approach. So I say as all these things come into our world and into a peripheral about eating strategies, if something calls your name, try it. But don't ever make something more powerful than what your body is trying to tell you. Okay, the next question we have is from Darlene. And Darlene is asking, do you have to eat breakfast when you're not hungry? Intuitive eating. How would you manage intuitive eating on a hectic, stressful job? Okay, so first things first, Absolutely not. I do not think that you should eat breakfast when you're not hungry. As a matter of fact, I think you should always let your body guide you to eating when you are hungry, right? So you don't really ever want to get into the habit of eating just because it's mealtime. You want to get into the habit of eating because your energy is going low and your body is needing fuel. And as far as having a stressful schedule and wanting to practice intuitive eating, it definitely becomes more challenging, right? Because practicing intuitive eating really requires us taking some time to pause and connect with ourselves and our bodies so that we can get better at translating our body's way of communicating with us. So if you're running around and it's very hectic and it's hard for you to slow down and take those moments, I would say, one, you want to practice taking them anyway, right? So you want to just practice, just even if it's starting with just a pause and saying, okay, what sounds good? What would feel good? Do I actually feel hungry right now? Posing those questions to yourself. But also you want to have your own back in the sense that if you know you have a stressful, crazy schedule, then when you're at home, before you get to that day, think to yourself, okay, I'm going to need lunch. I'm going to need a snack. What sounds good to me now, right? So when you have space and you have time to think and plan ahead, you're going to want to use that to your advantage so that once you're in the throes of it all, you don't have to think so much. Does it make it a little more difficult to eat intuitively in the moment? Yes, because you have to make that decision ahead of time and you're preparing food ahead of time. But you're going to be a lot better off having something prepared than just trying to wing it when you're tired and stressed. So I would say meal prep and doing a little pre-prep ahead of time is going to be super helpful in that particular situation. Okay, going back to diets for a minute, we also had a few people asking about the keto diet. Renee and Marlene had asked, is keto the best diet? What do I think about the keto diet? So keto is definitely the in diet right now. And I think that first of all, let's identify the keto diet. I think a lot of people mistake the keto diet for a high protein diet. The keto diet is not a high protein diet. The keto diet is a high fat diet with moderate protein and extremely low carbohydrates. The idea again is that you are bringing your insulin super, super low. And this can be really effective for people who are insulin resistant, right? You can retrain the body to be able to absorb insulin and use it properly. So I think the keto diet can be very useful for somebody, say, who's trying to reverse type 2 diabetes. It's almost like a medical diet to me. It's something that you use for extreme cases. But like with all dietary approaches, if you try eating keto and you feel great and you really like it, maybe it's for you. But in my personal opinion, it is a very extreme, restrictive way of eating. It's very difficult to sustain. It's very difficult to be social and to be spontaneous or to kind of just be in the world and be on the keto diet. So I feel like generally speaking, does it have a purpose? Yes, absolutely. But is it really a sustainable lifestyle? Not necessarily. And just a side note, I think it really is important to always remember that all of the different dietary approaches out there, no matter what they are, for people who are doing them successfully, that there are two components that have to take place, right? They have to be enjoying the approach, meaning you're enjoying the process, and it has to be sustainable. Because anytime you take a dietary approach that feels like you're white knuckling it, you may have short-term success, but it is not going to be sustainable. What we have to remember is that the goal of all of this healthy eating is to feel good. So you have to find a path that feels good to you. And I think sometimes one of the most important things we have to do is get out of our own way. So you have to find a path, you have to find a journey that feels good to you. So the next question is more about clean eating. Banka Wolfie asks, how have you always had a diet like this? Or have you always had a diet like this in your life? If not, what foods were you raised on and how do you suggest making the transition to clean eating? Okay, so I haven't had a diet like this my whole life. I was raised in an Italian household. I'm half Italian, quarter German, a quarter Irish, but our kitchen was Italian. So I was raised on just like good old-fashioned Italian food, lots and lots of pasta, you know, like steak and potatoes, not that that's necessarily Italian, but we ate that a lot. Chicken parmesan, lasagna, stuffed peppers, these were all like staples in my house. And I always used to joke around that my mom, she could make spaghetti on Tuesday and rigatoni on Wednesday, and in her mind, it was a completely different meal. Lots of pasta growing up. But I would say that the way to start transitioning into clean eating is to look at where you are and then pick one or two small places to start to level up your choices. For me, what I found really, really helpful was to focus on the quality of food, right? So instead of thinking about calories or crunching numbers in my mind, I would just think like, what is the most nutritious choice I can make right now that sounds good and that I would enjoy? So I think a really easy place to start is putting your focus on real whole foods that are as close to their natural state as possible most of the time. And I always like to remind people that most of the time is simply 51% of the time. So let's say you wake up in the morning and you're used to eating perhaps a highly processed muffin or a highly processed cereal for breakfast. You could think, what would be a step up from this? Maybe that's a bowl of oatmeal, right? So you're still having a bowl of cereal in a sense, but it's a less processed bowl of cereal and you're making a more nutritious choice for yourself. So always kind of looking at where you are and what would be one step up, and then making that choice and letting that become a habit. And once that feels like a habit and like you're not thinking about it a lot anymore and you're enjoying it and it feels good, then you look at another arena and you do that. And it's a slow, slow process. I think the catch-22 for people who want to eat better, to lose weight specifically, is that we kind of feel like we'll do anything in spite of ourselves to get there, right? But I feel like what we have to think about is the fact that I want to take really great care of myself. And the way I can take really great care of myself via food is to make really good quality whole food choices for myself. And when you start to make that shift and you start to think about nourishment, it's a really great place to start to make better choices. Okay, I'm just gonna do a couple more. The next one is a cooking question. So the question is, I find the hardest part about whole food plant-based eating is getting dinner on the table quickly. With all the chopping and the vegetables to prep, it takes way longer. What are some great 30-minute or less meals that my husband and 3 kids will love? So I don't think there's any way to go around this. It's absolutely true. When we're getting in the kitchen and we're working with more real whole foods, there's going to be more prep time involved. And I think that really a big part of what that comes down to is just making a decision for yourself that it's important and that it's a priority. And rearranging some things to give yourself the space and the time to be able to get in the kitchen more often. Another thing that I think is really important, and you guys know I talk about a lot, is meal prep, right? So taking time on the weekend or taking time when you have time to prep some things ahead of time so you have them on hand when the week is a little busier and a little more hectic, right? So pre-chopping and washing a bunch of vegetables, because vegetables are definitely the thing that takes the most amount of time. Another shortcut is to take advantage of things that are already chopped or prepared, right? So that can mean buying a big bin of pre-washed baby spinach or pre-washed baby arugula, so you have some good dark leafy greens ready to go and you really don't have to do anything. Or that can mean taking advantage of your grocery store's pre-prepared food section, or buying pre-chopped vegetables at the store, or going to a salad bar and buying some Head Start ingredients rather than having to do it all yourself, right? But I think most importantly, it really starts in our mind with wanting to make it a priority, wanting to say that this is important enough to me that I'm not gonna let it become something that gets to fall to the wayside. I'm going to choose to let something maybe that's not aligned with my goals fall to the wayside and put a little more effort into my food. With that being said, it's definitely helpful to have a handful of really quick recipes that you enjoy and that you're comfortable making, right? So some of my go-to favorites are skillet meals. I love my turkey and zucchini skillet. I love my Mexican skillet. I've shared both of those in the past. I'll link all of these for you. We love quesadillas in our house. My kids, our whole family loves like a good taco night. Any type of sheet pan meal comes together really quick. Any type of roasted chicken and vegetable meal we could do really quickly. Black beans and rice. All of these are some of our like 30-minute meals that we keep in our back pocket, but you want to find ones that you and your family enjoy and that you're super comfortable making. Another really great tip is on the weekend, take a time to make some big pots of things, right? So maybe that's a big pot of chili, or maybe that's a big pot of vegetable soup that you can pull out throughout the week. Another favorite of mine is the slow cooker. So doing shredded barbecue chicken, or doing shredded salsa chicken, doing a big thing of black beans. Again, all of these are Head Start ingredients that you could bring 101 different different ways. For instance, if I do shredded chicken, I might turn it into a salad. I might turn it into a quesadilla. I might turn it into a burrito. There's so many different things you could do. I might put it on top of a roasted sweet potato. So you kind of have to create that arsenal for yourself and then get comfortable making them. One more idea that comes to my mind right now is that I think if there's any tip that anybody could use to save time in the kitchen, it's to own one really good knife and get really good at using it. Because when you are comfortable using a good knife, which should be a nice, sharp chef's knife, you will save yourself so much time, because so much of what takes a long time in the kitchen is the cutting. And if you're not comfortable with the knife and you're slow on the draw, that's going to slow things down a lot. So taking the time to teach yourself to get really good with your knife is probably my #1 time saver that anybody can use in the kitchen. Okay, let's do one last question for this video. Let's see. Ashley's Little Nook on YouTube asks, how can you eat healthier when the people around you don't eat that way? And those people buy your food. I can't afford to buy my own food yet. So that is definitely a trickier situation, my dear Ashley. If you are not in control of the food that's coming into your house and that you're able to eat and prepare, obviously that's going to restrict your options. I would say that what you can do in those circumstances is going to be a little bit more mental, right? So what I mean by that is I would practice more on how you're eating. And I would practice making sure that you're not heckling yourself about the food choices. So for instance, when you're eating your food, sit down, create a pleasurable environment for yourself, chew the food, enjoy the food, allow the food that you're having in that moment to nourish you. Right? So create a state of gratitude for the food that you are eating right now. Because anytime we go into a state where we are, we're annoyed with the food, or we're judging the food, or we're telling ourselves we shouldn't be eating that food, that whole internal process is going to become more toxic, more stressful, less nutritious than anything that could possibly be on your plate anyway. So if you truly don't have control about what's on your plate, then make sure how you're approaching the plate is in a really healthy way, in a state of gratitude, in a loving way. This is what I have right now, and I'm going to allow this to nourish my body the best way that it can. With that being said, anytime you're out of the house and anywhere you do have the opportunity to make different choices, make different choices. Maybe you can ask the people who are buying you food, hey, I have these 5 things I want to throw on the grocery list this week. Would you mind buying these or adding these to the shopping trip this week? Or maybe you can say, hey, I don't know who's buying your food, but let's say it's your parents. You could say, Mom and Dad, I found this new recipe for vegetable chili that I really want to try this week. Would you guys mind buying the ingredients, and I'm going to cook this for us? Or would you want to maybe come in the kitchen together and we could try this new recipe together, right? So don't allow your mind to go to a place like that you're completely doomed and there's just no win, right? This is a short period of time in your life. Eventually you will be able to make all of the choices and control all of your food. But before you get there, all you can control right now is the way you are thinking about and approaching the food that's in front of you. So make sure that you're doing that in a healthful way. Allow what is to be good enough for now and approach it that way, right? Feel good about it, choose to feel good about it, and make the best of it, knowing that this is not forever and that you're moving in a more positive direction. Because when all is said and done, we cannot control other people's behaviors, right? And we have to remember that the most annoying yet the most empowering truth is that what we can control is how we show up. So I would say you show up from a healthy state of mind with the intention of where you want to go, and trust that that's going to bring you in that direction. Okay, so that was super fun. I really enjoy having these casual conversations with you guys. If you like this type of video, a good old-fashioned Q&A, let me know down in the comments below, and or please like this video. This will help me determine whether or not I should be doing these more regularly. And in the meantime, if you have any other thoughts or questions, leave them down in the comment section below. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I will see you all back here next time with some more food for thought. Cheers. I mean, do they really need to know about my jowls? I'm super excited to have a nice boop. And then I'm gonna figure out how I want to, I'm talking way too much. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. So that, oh my beloved.